Hello everybody, I'm Max McAllister from Traction Dynamics, and I'm doing a product review today on the Humon Hex. This is a new product and a new technology that is real-time muscle oxygen measurement is what the idea of the product is. So for athletes, if you could know the oxygen concentration in your muscles, you can know what state they're in, as far as if they're in a state where they're adequately supplied with oxygen, if they're in a state where they're using oxygen faster than it's being delivered, and which leads to a state that's unsustainable, or if your muscles are in a state of recovery where the oxygen level is increasing in the muscle. So I saw this product at Interbike 2018 in Reno a couple of weeks ago. Real-time muscle oxygen concentration wearable. I'm a techie guy. I love data, and I love learning things that my body does that I can't see. So this thing, I was into it right away. What the device is an electronic sensor with a band that they recommend you wear on your thigh. So you basically put the device on your thigh and adjust it so that it's tensioned. You turn it on, pair it to a smartphone, and it begins transmitting. And then the smartphone, there's an app that comes from Humon that then displays, if you have your smartphone out in some way in front of you, like on your bicycle, or if you don't want to carry it in your hand while you're running or whatever, you can see real time the state your muscles are in. They do that by displaying a graph that in four colors actually. I'm sorry. Green is referred to, they call steady state. Orange is you're nearing your limit, and red is you're functioning at or above your limit. Blue, it means that your muscles are in a state of recovery. And so, to be clear, green is enough oxygen. Orange is I'm using oxygen faster, but not at an alarming rate. Red is I've used oxygen at an alarming rate. My muscles are running in a state that is not sustainable. They'll eventually have to stop. Blue is a state where my body is delivering, my muscles are receiving more oxygen than they're consuming in whatever activity you're doing. So they're recovering. All right, so sounds cool, right? And they give you a number, a percentage number that's kind of reads out in real time while you're doing this. Of particular interest to me was the way I understood it, although I wasn't correct. I was going to be able to load a Garmin Connect IQ app on my Garmin cycling computer, and I would be able to see these bars of representation on my computer while I was cycling. That wasn't clear to me, and I was wrong about that. What I can see on a Garmin cycling computer is you can dedicate one field on your screen to the Humon transmitter from the Hex transmitter, and it will give you the number. The number doesn't really mean a lot to me or to a normal cyclist, but it does reflect a color. It does show you the green. The box turns green, and it'll say 70%. And you can see as your muscle oxygen concentration goes down, 65, 60, all of a sudden it might turn orange, and at 55 it's going to show red. Then at some point it's going to go back up, and it gets to 75 and it turns blue. You're delivering more than you're consuming. Those numbers, I'm sure, are personal. They're dependent on the athlete and the person, your health, your fitness, your condition, etc. So anyway, that's kind of the deal. So, it also does report as a statistic, as a data field under the statistics section in Garmin Connect, on your Garmin Connect mobile app, and in your, actually I haven't looked at it online, at Garmin Connect online. I've never done it from the PC. I've only viewed it in my phone, but it does report there. and it will report some data that looks something like this on your Garmin in a field. Now, sad part about that is there is no color representation in Garmin, so I'll kind of come back to that. So I buy this device, I bring it home, and I go to set it up. I take it out of the box. I loaded the Humon app. I attempted to pair this device. Was able to pair the device. I put on my heart rate monitor, and I spent 20 or 30 minutes screwing around with it, trying to get my heart rate monitor to pair. But then it turns out that the Humon app will only accept Bluetooth heart rate monitors, which I use Garmin. It's not Bluetooth. So I was a little upset because I wasted a bunch of time because nothing told me that I had to use a Bluetooth heart rate monitor. Just when you use the app, it just says heart rate monitor. So wasted a bunch of time with that. Then I went ahead and bought a dual band heart rate monitor from Wahoo. There's a ticker that's dual band. So spent another $60 on that. I had it delivered. Tried it the next day. I was able to get heart rate and the Humon Hex sync to pair to the device at the same time. In the meantime, I just tried to play with it. And the first time I tried using it, just turning on and off and doing, I wasn't physically working out. I was just cycling the app. After about 4 times, the app became corrupt, froze, and I had like a blue screen of death in the app. And I couldn't proceed with anything with it unless eventually I figured out I had to just delete the app. So at this point, I'd kind of already gotten aggravated with it, and so I tried to contact tech support. So there is no phone number for Humon, and humans at Humon do not want to talk to humans that are not at Humon. That's the first thing you're going to find out. So they want to support you virtually. They don't want to talk to you. Now, even since I was there, I met a man named Alessandro, who is the CEO. I've got his card. There's a phone number here. Called the phone number. No one answered the phone. They wouldn't call back. I got a thing. Now, I know this is a small company because basically I found that, how big can this be? This is their product. So they use Zendesk. So I get the Zendesk thing that they want to talk to me. So I explained to them in Zendesk that I had a whole list of problems that I had found with the device, that it wasn't pairing, it wasn't remaining paired, the trouble with connecting heart rate monitor. Then I had a half a dozen questions that I couldn't find answers to on their website. And I said, this is a $300 device. And I said, for $300, I'm not going to sit here and type for an hour. I don't have time to mess with this. I'd like someone to call me. I don't want to talk to you via internet. I got another email back from Zendesk. Please give us your phone number, model number, your this, your that. They weren't going to call me. So eventually I sent an email and I said, okay, so you don't want to talk to me. What I'm going to do is I'll create a review of this. I'm going to put it on YouTube. Well, they said they would refund my money since I was having so much trouble with it. I said, okay, what I'm going to do is create a review on this product on my YouTube channel, and then I'll put it in a box and then I'll ship it back to you. About 30 minutes later, my phone rang, and it was Alessandro, who was now willing to talk to me. So I explained to him my list of problems, the things that I was having. Some of them, then at present, there's no answers for them. So I got some notes. I'm going to kind of read from my notes here. So first one was the app corrupted the very first time that I tried to use it. And once I got to a certain app that was an activity in the app that was corrupted, there was no way out of it, and the only way to around this was to delete everything, reload it, relog in, and start over. The Garmin Connect, when I first tried to use it the very first day, I did the IQ Connect apps. They have 2 apps, one's for endurance and one's for interval activity. I loaded them both onto my Garmin. It couldn't figure out which one it was supposed to get. I don't know how it's supposed to pick when it starts receiving the transmission, which field it's going to populate. So that was a problem. Next was heart rate monitor. Let me see this. So once you use the Humon fields in your Garmin Connect, I had 2 fields. Created a new activity page, put the 2 fields. All of the on-screen controls are broken, dysfunctional, disabled. I couldn't figure out how to get out of the Humon screens. Just by chance, by swiping to another page, laterally moving the page, then the existing Garmin pages came back to life, and I was able to control the Garmin again. So that was kind of another bug. Then I was sad to find out that there is none of the cool 3-color graphical displays on the Garmin computer. So they have some details here, some information that explains to you what you should be watching for as far as, or what you can learn from as far as style and shape of the graphs, as far as your body's ability to recover and the way it recovers. And so you can start learning from that data. Well, none of that's visible while you're riding a bicycle, unless you were to somehow strap your phone to your handlebar. Now, there are lots of people that strap their phone to their handlebar and go for a bike ride. For the most part, they're not going to be athletes that are measuring their muscle oxygen concentration. So typical cyclists that will use a product like this, have a Garmin connected on a proper bicycle, and they're not using their cell phone as their computer. So that won't apply to the typical person who would buy this product. Next, so it would have helped if the app, while I was trying to use the app, said blue rate heart rate monitor, because it just said heart rate monitor. So I wasted all that time trying to connect an Amp Plus heart rate monitor. In the app, there's another thing that says, that allows a toggle switch that says always connect to the last device. And that's for both the heart rate monitor and the Hex. Okay, well, I have more than one heart rate monitor. I keep separate bags for mountain biking and road biking. I have heart rate monitors in my various bags. So if you leave that set to connect to the last device, it's looking for one that I don't even have on me. It's not even present with me. So when I want to toggle that off so that it's not looking for the last device, well, then it doesn't find the Hex until it has to search for the Hex and pair with the Hex every single time. So those should be separate functions. The next big problem came with the heart rate monitor itself. Let's see. The app is designed with the intent that the person is going to exercise alone. And that's not how most cyclists train. In fact, a lot of runners don't run alone. So when you're in a group of other athletes and you turn on the Humon app, it just randomly selects whatever heart rate monitor it wants to when that switch is toggled off. Mine just connected to my girlfriend's heart rate monitor instead of mine, and so then that was a problem, because then I had to shut the app down and try and find a way to get drive my bicycle off into the distance so that I could be alone and try and connect to the heart rate monitor. So that was just another big mess. Then first time I actually used it, tried to ride with it, it only recorded a few minutes of data, unbeknownst to me. I turned the app on, started it, calibrated it, and turned on my Strava to go for my ride, put my phone in my jersey pocket, went for a ride. When I came back, it hadn't really done anything. It collected data for 18 minutes, but I rode for 23 miles for about an hour and a half or something with a group. It said I had only ridden 0.51 miles. I'm not sure where it's getting mileage data from. This isn't GPS enabled, but somehow they've got mileage in their app. But that data is completely corrupt. It's never logged mileage data at all correctly for me. So connectivity. It did transmit data to my Garmin 1030, but again, I get this single color graph that it just means nothing to me. I don't even know what was happening. This might mean something to a scientist, but it means nothing to me, the person who bought the device, who was supposed to get the 4-color graph to tell me what was happening so I could study how my body reacts and learn from it. So we don't get that cool graphical curve you want to see. Let's see. Now, another problem in the thing is every time you go through the app to start it, you have to select whether you're running or cycling and whether you're doing an endurance or interval workout. This isn't a big one, but by default, they say virtually, Humon says you should be using endurance for basically every activity you do. The only time you're going to use the interval selection is if you're doing interval training exercises that are 2 minutes or less repeatedly. Okay, so the app, every time you use it, 90% of the time, you've got to, that's one more thing you got to go menu you got to go through and select before you can start your activity. It doesn't make sense. You should make the minority of people doing a 2-minute interval workout do that. Even though you select cycling, it still dictates has a statistic called minimum miles and pace for a cyclist, which is a runner's statistic, not for this. So I've started explaining all this stuff by email to Alessandro and another person that was copied in the email that never got involved in the conversation. When I had said I was going to create a YouTube video on this, I've put a lot of effort, as you'll see as I go through this, to try and help them sort out why this thing didn't work and doesn't work for me and in general. But, once I said I was going to do a review, then all of a sudden Alessandro was very interested in trying to answer my questions because obviously a bad review is bad for a product like this. But my very first overall impression was this thing is just like in a beta stage and it's not ready to be sold, but he assured me that it wasn't. So we'll go on from here and tell you how it worked on from here. So I tried using the Hex several more times. It would not remain connected to me at all. So I did some experiments trying to get it to stay connected. I began trying to question him, what's its range? He said randomly you can't use it on the other side of your body. So I said I don't know where you can't use your phone on the other side of your body. So I said I don't know what made you think that, but I carried my phone in the center of the back of my body. This thing is roughly 18 inches away. On a bicycle, I'm in this position, so the sensor is roughly 18 inches from my cell phone. I asked him what's the transmission range of the Hex. He said 50 meters. That's 150 feet. Certainly my phone is within 150 feet when it's on my leg and my phone is in my back pocket. But basically they kind of came out and started hinting that you put the phone in your back pocket when you're running or cycling because it won't connect. It'll lose connectivity. So automatically that means this is no good to pretty much every cyclist in the world who would ever use it. It's no good because if you're not gonna ride your bike one hand holding your phone over this device on your leg while you're trying to ride your bike. It's ridiculous to suggest that. And so I tried an experiment where I put the Hex on, put my cell phone down in the middle of my workshop, worked on my bikes for one evening. I moved within about a 50-foot radius around my phone, and with it just sitting there, the first time it stayed connected for 43 minutes. Then I restarted it. It ran an hour and 10 minutes, and it stayed connected in that fashion until I stopped it. So, I don't understand why if I put my phone on my back and the device is on my leg, why it won't transmit. But if it won't, then it's tragically flawed and this isn't ready for sale to the public. It just won't work. The next, let's see, the other thing that was odd was while I was doing these activities, the Hex data showed me as approaching my limit and that I had reached my limit, that my muscles are in an unsustainable state of oxygen consumption. I wasn't even exercising. I was just walking around. My heart rate was just barely off of resting because I wasn't even doing anything. So I was concerned about that data, that it was giving me bogus data. I actually asked him if it was possible for my unit to just be defective and did they want to replace it. He just wanted me to return it and give me my money back. So I actually wanted to get a replacement to see if the possibility existed. This is just a bad one. but he didn't seem interested in allowing me the opportunity to see if this was the case. So, you know, an electronic device, nowadays it's possible for them to be bad. In fact, in this case, the review would be better if I had one that was bad. But right now, we're not going to know that because they're not sending me another one to try. That was that problem. The data appeared screwy to me. And then yesterday, I just tried my own experiment, and I took my cell phone and I put it in the front of my cycling bib to see if not having it on my back would let it transmit. And it did actually connect and stay connected for the duration of a ride. Now, nobody anywhere is going to jam their cell phone in the front of their bib and go try and ride a bike. It's ridiculous. You can't stand up, you can't climb, stand to climb. You're certainly not going to do anything fast. I was just on a moderately easy ride, but it's ridiculous to suggest that that's how you would have to ride a bike, or you're going to put this thing in your pants and go for a run for 10 miles. It's ridiculous. So then past that, it did record data for the time I rode, which is about an hour and a half. And during that time, the hex, my phone is here and the hex is here. So, they were, the whole time, it was within a foot probably of me while I was riding my bike. So one of the first things that came up when I looked at the data when I got back in the data field on Humon appeared an altitude data field. I don't know where it's collecting altitude data from, but apparently somewhere around 25 minutes in my ride, I began riding up a perfectly smooth hill, and then I jumped off a cliff. But actually, this field represents a total distance of about 6 inches. So it measured 6 inches of elevation gain in a 24-mile ride I did yesterday. So I don't know, like I said, this is just another totally corrupt data field that reports nothing that means anything to anybody. Now, here's the next one. This is what I saw in the Humon software on my PC. So here's the next problem. This does have the 4-color graphical representation, but unfortunately, what you're looking at here is, 1 minute. This is an hour and a half. It's so condensed that you can't actually see anything in the data. And this software has no functionality to expand it. So I can't zoom in any way to study what any of these little skinny lines mean. It just means nothing to me. I'm zooming a photograph, I'm trying to zoom a photograph here to show you what I'm talking about, but I'm sorry, that's the altitude one. But so anyway, this means nothing to me. It's just too coarse, right, or too close. So this is the closest I can get to it, is taking a photograph from their website and then zooming in and trying to study what I'm supposed to learn from their app. It doesn't make sense. Now, to further exacerbate this is what's reported on the Humon website, or when I go and log in and look at my ride through their website. All right, there's that picture. This is what is reported on my Garmin Connect app. The exact same ride, exact same data fields, reported in 2 formats on 2 things. Clearly, they're totally unrelated. All right, so here, this is hemoglobin percentage. This says I was around 65 to 70% the whole ride. Here's the actual Humon, which shows I was between 70 and 95%. Obviously, with different levels of. This is more realistic data. What I assumed I would see. This is what's getting transmitted to Garmin. Totally useless, as far as I can tell. Now, the question actually becomes, which is useless? I don't know which is useless because they aren't the same. I can't tell you which is inaccurate. All I know is one color is completely useless to me. Basically, that it doesn't line up with anything else means it's reported improperly and is also not working. So that's also corrupt and not working. Then while I rode the bike, the data was reported while I was riding the bike. So it gave me a number and gave me a color. So while I'm, again, riding off, just pedaling off, coasting, and the ride's beginning, this thing will say I'm at my limit. I haven't even begun to breathe, never mind exert myself. So certainly my muscles are not functioning at their limit. And it'll tell me that sometimes even while I'm walking around in the parking lot, because I have to start that Humon app long before I get ready to ride, so that it's a more complex process. Then during my ride last night, there's one just small short grade of a quarter of a mile that I actually attacked as hard as I could to see what the data would say about it. I attacked it as hard as I could 2 times in succession. There's a loop. So it's about a mile and a half around, and a quarter mile of it is just a little short grade at the end. And I attacked, absolute full effort. So full effort up the hill, all the way to zone 5, maximum heart rate, breathing as hard as I could, full effort. Down the hill, recovering and spinning, and then I attacked the hill again, all the way to, exceeded lactate threshold, to the point where I had a bad taste in my mouth. It was as hard of an effort as I could generate, and totally unsustainable. I was, sprinting for a quarter of a mile. My muscles were in total failure. I couldn't hardly pedal once I got to the top the second time. I made it to the top and as hard as I could, full effort. While that was going on, the thing read green, that my body was in a steady state and I was all good to go, and I could just keep doing that all day. Clearly, that's not the case. So the data it's reporting, totally corrupt, totally inaccurate, means absolutely nothing, doesn't work. Same thing on the Garmin Connect app. There's no way to zoom on the field to even look at what's going on there, or on Garmin Connect Mobile. So another problem is just this stuff, you can't see it, read it, use it. What is there is inaccurate. So I'm kind of explaining the point to you here. So bottom line, kind of the summary, the app corrupts. The app's missing critical features that allow it to be used for its intended purpose. It will not remain connected to the app unless you strap it, on your leg or carry it in your hand, which isn't safe, and no one's going to do that. The inability for it to remain connected to an app makes it completely useless. The data it reports to Garmin fitness products is not the same data that's reported to the Humon app. Makes it completely useless. There's wacky data fields reported in the app and in the Humon software that report nothing that occurs in reality. So, unfortunately, I couldn't, in case you can't tell by now, I can't recommend this thing to anybody. It's of no use to me or to anyone. I'm putting mine in the box and sending it back. I am disappointed on lots of levels, because I certainly would be willing to help these guys further, just as a beta tester for them. What their position is, this is a totally ready for sale product, and that's why I'm doing this review, because it's for sale on multiple outlets, and I don't want people to go through the same experience that I did with this thing. It's just not ready for prime time. So maybe in the future, if you start reading positive reviews about this, it'd be something worth revisiting. But currently, 0 stars on this one. So anyway, let's hope that technology like this advances, and so that cyclists can learn this stuff, or hopefully this company gets it polished up and working better. I wish them luck in doing that. And but until then, this is Max with Cycle with Max, and please subscribe to my channel, and I'll be bringing you more product reviews and technical information and ways to help you improve your cycling experience. Thanks a lot.